Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, what life was like in the industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the Stony Brook, located in South Hadley and Granby. So, where does the Stony Brook start and end?
It starts in the community of Granby, Massachusetts, and there it actually goes through quite a bit of Granby and meanders around a bit. I think it even crosses a tiny bit into Ludlow. But it finally makes that northernmost sweep towards South Hadley. It does that crossing 201 point, and it reappears inside the road and starts to get much, much bigger. A lot of tributaries go into it, very tiny ones. You could probably count up about 8 tributaries coming into it. And thus, by the end, the Stony Brook is getting very large for itself. It is misnamed a bit, and so we'll tell you about that. So, we're going to talk about the many places it's dammed, and where people can get good views of it, and what the future holds for this brook. Now, I talked about where it started. Where it ends is near Burnell's Marina in South Hadley, where it finally comes out, and it crosses Ferry Street. It's very close to the end of the Bachelor Brook, maybe about, I would say, a third of a mile apart from each other. And these two brooks are both creeks. They're very large. They deposit a lot of water into the Connecticut River. The Stony Brook's watershed is very flat compared to the Bachelor Brook being very hilly. And it picks up a lot of water along the way, though, and we're going to talk about its many dams.
And why is the Stony Brook dammed so much?
It's dammed so much because it has so much water flowing through it, you can back it up and get a lot of power out of it. So a lot of power dams are made that powered shingle mills, grist mills, so forth. Mills of 200 years ago. There was no electricity, you need the power, and so backing up brooks and creeks was very, very useful. So I'll tell you about some of the places that it is backed up. On the campus of Mount College, it's backed up 3 times. The Upper Pond Dam used to be where the Smith's paper mill was, and it's now still backed up with a dam, a very medium-sized one. Near Willett's Hollow Well, there's a Willow Hollow Well pond, very tiny, and there it's a very small concrete dam still in place. The lower pond has a dam, and it's still there. It has a pretty dramatic drop, about 12 feet down to the base of it. And so Mullen College has 3 dams and 3 reservoirs in place. Again, these are not natural. Then there's also the Mill Pond, which is down by the retail establishment at 1 College Street. And there it's still in place. If you go back in the woods there, you can see it. And it's pretty small, so a pretty small drop. There used to be one further on called the Barrett's Butt Mill Dam, and that one is gone, so it's not in place. There even was one in Evergreen Cemetery out in the woods behind the cemetery, which backed up right behind the cemetery. It might have been used by the cemetery for watering the grass. The dam is not there in place anymore. There might even been one in Granby. I'm still researching that one.
And really quick, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, If you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at hoyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and texts of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, @yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, where can people get good views of the Stony Brook?
Well, the best views by far are on the campus of Mount College. And if you're a resident of South Hadley, you can go there anytime you want to. If you're not a resident, you can actually stop on the street that crosses through, and you can legally look at the land and at the beautiful dam there and this big waterfall. And other places that you can get a good view. There's a decent view off Route 116 at the bottom of College Street, 1 College Street. There's also a view on Ferry Street where you can see it right across the street from Burnell's Marina coming in. There, it's very wide. And you can understand why the name Brook doesn't really hold. Stony Brook should really be Stony Creek. It's quite wide, and it reaches the definition of an intermediate body of water that flows. It goes brook, creek, and river, and this is definitely a creek. And does it have a lot of stones around? Well, at some point you can see some stones. Okay, you can call it Stony Creek or Stony Brook. Now, the last question come up is very important because it crosses so many important places, and we're going to talk about its present and future.
And what does the future hold for the brook?
The future is bright because it has its last entrance out onto the Connecticut River right near a big conservation area with a park. And that's the Stony Brook, Batcher Brook Conservation Area in South Hadley on Ferry Street. And you can park in the parking lot of that, across the street, and get a great look up the Stony Brook's end. So that's one great point that's happened. And the other great point is Mount College preserves their land so well that it'll keep that reservoir look to it 3 times over as it passes through there. Another place that it passes through a nice land is through a conservation area that's on Mary Lyon Street in South Hadley and Granby. And there you can park there and go into the woods. And there's a little path that goes along the Stony Brook for a long time. Now, the Granby part is not as easy to see, and who knows what the future will be there. But Granby is not growing that fast, and I'm sure they'll stay away from this water and not change the body of water too drastically with time. And it has a lot of tributaries coming into it, including Ingraham, which had a dam, and it does have a dam still, but it used to have 2, and it has a reservoir on it. And we'll talk about it at another point. So the Stony Brook has a lot going for it, and hopefully it'll stay that way.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And of course, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of other podcasts on his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new videos and podcasts posted daily. Thank you for tuning in.